Baker Mayfield, we talked about his situation earlier in the show with Robert Klemko, Sports Illustrated insider and senior writer, and we're starting to get some clarity on the controversy surrounding Baker Mayfield's comments in which he did with Gentleman's Quarterly Magazine, GQ interview was published on Tuesday, in which he criticized the Giants for taking Daniel Jones. He said that, I can't believe the Giants made that pick at number 6, and he went on to say that eventually you have to take winning into account when you draft a quarterback. These were very inflammatory comments because it was an insult to Daniel Jones. What we're finding out over the course of the past couple of days is that Baker Mayfield did say these things, but maybe the quotes were kind of married together, which is what Robert Klemko said, that early part of the interview he's talking about, I can't believe the Giants drafted Daniel Jones that early, and then later on it was you have to take winning into account when you're talking about a quarterback, because for most of Baker Mayfield's career, he's been a guy that's won, and he has felt slighted that he hasn't been able to be appreciated the way other quarterbacks were because he's won. Here he is yesterday from his press conference after he talked about calling Daniel Jones to apologize, saying his words were taken out of context.
First, I'll probably say that this is the one and only time I'll address this issue because, the interview was done back in April, like right after the draft, and just things taken out of context, and that's the problem with today's day and age. You don't read the whole thing, you don't put 2 and 2 together, you just kind of read scripts, and then people, they combine sentences from different conversations, and so it seemed very disrespectful, and I can understand that. But what people didn't realize is the conversation entailed of me saying that I was surprised I was drafted number 1 overall too, and then me going on a rant after that about QB evaluation, and then me frustration from recruiting processes and stuff that I've had it's very well documented, my thoughts on a lot of that. And so it had nothing to do specifically about Daniel, about the winning and stuff.
So here's Baker Mayfield explaining away, which is very shocking. You don't really see Baker Mayfield ever back away from any of his takes. But no matter how you cut it up, he still talked about winning being something you evaluate a quarterback about, and he brought up Daniel Jones being drafted too early by the Giants, and he didn't get why the Giants made that pick. And the issue with Baker Mayfield stays the same. Now, you can talk about the writer saying, boy, did he marry those comments together, something that happened earlier in an interview, and this happened a few minutes later, and it seems like he said it one right after another. But quarterback, you have to realize that when you're in the National Football League, you are a leader of a larger group, and everybody's jobs come down to how you play. And I mean the jobs of your coaches, the jobs of people in the organization. You need to be able to lead your team, and this is leading people who are your age, younger than you, and sometimes 5 and 7 and 8 years older than you are. If you want to be this guy at Oklahoma, you know what? Well, if you're not good, well, the next guy's going to come in and play. And then the next guy's going to come in after that because it's a bunch of 5-star quarterbacks that are going to come in and they'll find one that plays well. In the NFL, it's different, and your leadership position is different. Why are you talking about another quarterback? No other quarterbacks talk about the level of play of other quarterbacks in the game. Tom Brady doesn't weigh in on Cam Newton. Cam Newton doesn't weigh in on Russell Wilson. This just doesn't happen. The issue with Baker Mayfield is he loves seeing his name in print and being talked about. He loves that. He can't swing at every pitch. And whether it's Daniel Jones, whether it's Sam Ehlinger playing quarterback for Texas and his high school couldn't beat my high school, whether it's Duke Johnson's contract situation with the Browns where he's got to let that go because that's a business side of things, he weighs it. He wants to swing at everything, and at some point someone's got to tell him, dude, you can't just talk about everything. Sometimes you got to let a pitch go by. All right, Duke Johnson, let him figure out his thing. All right, players don't want to seem like you're anti them if they have a difference of opinion with the organization. They don't want to seem like you're going to be against them. Why are you spending time talking about another team's quarterback when that has no bearing on you, your life, our life here with the Browns? I feel like that's what Baker Mayfield needs to rein in and realize, okay, sometimes I just can't weigh in on everything and let it go.
This is who he is. And as he matures, things will change. But I give him a pass for this because in his short time in the NFL, he hasn't walked back to anything he said. And so for him to, 1, reach out to Daniel Jones, and then 2, publicly say I reached out to him and say things were taken out of context, you have to take him at his word because he's been one to where he says what he feels. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. And so I don't think he really meant to say, I mean, he says it himself. Yeah, I was shocked they took him with the 6th pick, but I was also shocked that I was number 1. And so if you can be shocked at yourself being drafted 1, why can't you be shocked at somebody else being drafted 6? And so he said what he felt. He felt things were taken out of context. He addressed it with the man that was involved, being Daniel Jones. He publicly said something about it. I have no problem with who he is as a person until it becomes a problem. And thus far, it hasn't. It hasn't. He wears his emotion and his heart on his sleeve. That makes him who he is. When you're a walk-on and you always constantly have to prove yourself, that's going to happen. But you were the first pick, Baker. And so you proved yourself to where you were the first pick of the NFL draft. So people obviously thought highly of you coming into the league. A lot more highly coming into the league than when you were coming out of high school. And so he'll mature. Will he change completely? No, but you don't want him to change completely because that's who he is. That's what makes him. That's what motivates and drives him. And I'm okay with it. It's not a problem until it becomes a problem to the other 52 guys on that team. And until he starts to rub guys the wrong way on his own team, it's never a problem. I don't care if I rub guys the wrong way that aren't on my team. It's the guys in that locker room, the other 52 guys that are on my team that I care about. And as long as they're behind me and they're cool with what I'm saying and doing, I have no problem. I don't care about the perception of the people on the outside. It's what happens inside.
If this was in a vacuum, I'd agree with you. Jason Smith, TJ Houshmandzadeh, in for Dan and the Danettes. But this is not, hey, this one time this happened. Baker Mayfield says I'm misquoted. This is the 4th time in the past 3 weeks that the Browns have had to deal with headlines involving Baker Mayfield that have no bearing on what they're trying to do as a football team. So, as you said, this is who he is. And this is August 22nd. And already I feel like I'm exhausted. And the Browns have to feel like I'm exhausted with here's another day and another Baker Mayfield headline. And eventually that's going to find its way. And I know it's finding its way because if this happened and it was Baker Mayfield being attacked by the media, you know what happens. Players sit up and say, this is our quarterback. You guys are being really unfair with him. He's our guy. We're riding with Baker Mayfield. And all of these things going on, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen anybody say, leave him alone. He's our guy. He's our guy. He started camp with the Duke Johnson, yelling at his wide receivers, come back to me on a drill. They weren't pleased with it. Freddie Kitchens, what's he going to do? Baker Mayfield, they have elevated him to being the most powerful person in the organization, and he hired Freddie Kitchens. I like Freddie Kitchens. So Freddie Kitchens says, okay, what Baker likes, I like. Because of more of this controversial stuff involving Baker Mayfield, Freddie Kitchens has had to say, any of my coaches speak out a turn, they're fired. So already coaches on his staff were like, what are you talking about? Because former coaches were weighing in on Baker Mayfield. So now he's got to spend time saying, you talk to the league, you leak stuff, you're fired. So now I'm a coach on Freddie Kitchens' team. I'm going, I'm getting yelled at for something I haven't done. And now you bet past the stupid stuff with the chugging the beer. That was something that was just fun that happened. But now you get to this, and here is everybody hates the Browns, and everybody's rooting for us to lose. And now here is a Daniel Jones story. That's got to be a lot, TJ, right? I mean, if you're going through training camp, it's got to be a lot.
It really doesn't matter. I've been in locker rooms. It's one thing that matters. They have a lot of expectations. They have to do one thing: win. They win. Who cares what he said in August? Who cares what he said in July? Who cares? When you start to lose and you are a reason why they're losing, if things come out, now you know how guys really felt about him. They just didn't say it publicly, but they'll start to say things off the record to the reporters, and then things will come out off the record. That's when you know the things that he did in July and August mattered. But if they lose and nothing comes out, people should leave it alone because they see the type of man and player he is. They see his character. They don't mind it on his team. If they win, obviously nothing comes out. But if you do one thing and win, it doesn't matter. That's all that matters is wins and losses. And as long as his teammates are cool with what he's doing, that's all that matters. Ultimately, That will be key. You lose some games. If nothing comes out, Baker Mayfield, he can kind of continue to act and be himself. But if things start to come out, he will be forced to change or he'll get run out the league.
Well, that's what's the big outcome of all of this, is that this is a very volatile mix you have going on in Cleveland right now. You have Baker Mayfield, who is not going to shy away from anything. You have Odell Beckham Jr., who's never going to shy away from anything. Right? As long as things go well and the Browns can be a front-running team, everything will be fine. Right? If they win their first couple of games out of the gate, and they're at the top of the AFC North for most of the season, and they're there. And I don't mean, they got to go 13-3, but as long as things are going well and they're in the play. But when they hit adversity, and every team hits adversity, this is where things are going to go bad fast. The first time Mayfield doesn't throw to Odell on 4th and 10 inside 2 minutes and they lose the game, Odell's saying something on social media, Baker Mayfield is saying something. It's such a volatile mix.
They won't do that.
Why? They've done that. Odell's done that his entire career.
Nah, they not. The ball, like, this is the thing, though. If you're a smart player, you understand when the play is called. Smart players know this. The play's called in the huddle, or even if it's a 2-minute and you're on the line and the play's called, once you line up and you see coverage, you already have an idea of where the ball's going. You already have an idea. Too high, single high. By the play that's being called, you already, once you line up, you say, oh, this is going to Jarvis. Ooh, I got a chance to get this ball. You already know.
Well,
just
or
from coverage.
It doesn't matter if it's the first time he's overthrown on a 4th and 10.
No, that they're going to have disagreements, but it's not going to be to where we're arguing about it, because Baker Mayfield is going to overthrow him. He's going to underthrow him. And Odell's going to drop balls. And so when you overthrow me, who am I to say make a better throw? Because when I drop a ball, you're not going to tell me to catch the ball. I want to catch it. And so we're both going to play good. We're both going to have our bad times. That's sports. We're not going to go at each other's throat over every little thing. That's just not going to happen. And Odell knows the perception of how he is in the public. He's not going to do that. He's not. We gotta start to give these guys some credit that they're actually smarter. They just look like that, I guess, to certain people.
If he changes, then I'll say you're right. But Odell was this way through the entire time through the last year. The final straw was losing, taking on Eli Manning.
Man, it's hard.
Question your quarterback in the middle of the season.
It's hard, man, to say and do the right things when you're losing. It's hard. And so that's why I say if they win, man, everything is going to be great. And if they lose and things come out, now you know. So that time will